Now, quick show of hands in the chat. Who is joining us for the first time in spring? I know, of course, I see a lot of familiar faces. So I know we have some repeat families who have been with us through other seasons, but I suspected, hello, welcome. I'm so excited for you to be joining your first season here with us at Wondergarten. And I'm excited to give you some tips to start off really well and confidently. Our first spring, yay. So I'm gonna start off in the beginning of the book. So if you have been with us for a while, this will be a bit of a recap, but I want to make sure that our newer members feel really well supported and prepared to begin their first season. So if this is your first season with us, be sure to take some time to go through the beginning of the book. This has a lot of lovely, lovely things. I have a welcome to you guys and just reminders as you go through your homeschool season that this is a journey and this book is really a menu of things for you to enjoy with your children. If you get behind, you're not behind. Don't feel like you have to catch up or make sure you fit everything in. This is just tools in your homeschooling toolbox to enrich not only your children's spring experience, but your own as well. And I hope these recipes and songs and stories and activities become cherished traditions, and let it breathe, let it live, and enjoy it, and give yourself grace and flexibility, and you'll have a wonderful time. So be sure to go through. We have an introduction. We talk a lot more about our whole guiding philosophy, our principles, and why we made this the way we did. And I think it's very much worth a read. I have some tips on baking with children. We have a section on our window star, what we use that for and how we use that. There's a link to a tutorial to make your own down here. So if you are new, be sure to just go through our beginning section because there's a lot of great stuff in there. I will point out our introduction to rhythm section. This is really important because it really lays out the entire framework that we use to display the information in our curriculum. So we have a daily rhythm of free play and a morning activity, circle time, main lesson. And as you open up your curriculum, you'll see this nice little card here, and this is guiding you through that rhythm so you know where you are in the day. Now, of course, you can choose to change your rhythm and do these activities at different times during the day, but you'll want to be familiar with what morning activity means, because when you see morning activity, that's what that means. So while you're free to change your rhythm as you would like, you'll see this kind of guiding point where if you are in that rhythm, here's where you are in the day. You're down here at your main lesson, your snack is next, you probably just finished circle time, and it can kind of help guide you. So definitely look through this rhythm section, get a sense of it so you can understand how we've crafted this and it'll make more sense of those lessons. Now, for all of you, circle time, be sure to open up your circle time section because we do have some spring circle rhymes and spring circle activities for you here. So the opening of your circle, good morning song, and a few of those things will stay basically the same, but we do have some specific spring things in here in your circle time section. And then the way we approach our circle time is after that seasonal piece, we move to our weekly piece where you're really diving into the story and the songs of the week. And of course, you can enjoy the audiobooks, you can listen to your music, and you can dive into those however feels best for you and your children. But definitely take a look at the circle time, spring circle time rhythms and motion rhymes and all of that good stuff. Then, if you are just starting, this section I would say is essential. Introduction to the world of Wondergarten. This is going to introduce you to all of the characters you need to know and really dive you into this beautiful world that Nathaniel's created. So this is worth a read. We have an introduction to the world of Wondergarten written by Mr. Hamilton Squirrel, and you will get to meet and hear about all of the characters. And this is worthwhile to read for yourself, but also to read to your children so they know who you're talking about, because our stories do start back in autumn. So if you're just joining us through spring, you'll want a little bit of context of who these friends are. Now, if you are also just joining us in spring, I would highly, highly, highly recommend finding our audiobook podcast and going back to the first 4 autumn stories, because that's where it all begins. That's where you get to meet these characters for the first time, and they're free. They're just amazing to listen to. Of course, if you have time, I would definitely recommend you listen to all of autumn and winter if you can. But if you're tight on time, at least those first 4 autumn stories will really introduce you to the world and give context to why we're here and following Hamilton with his new friends, the gnomes, and even give you context to why the first week of spring is so exciting with the return of the fairies. So definitely, if you're new, listen to those first 4 autumn stories, the 4 September stories. I think those are essential to just greet you to the world. Read that introduction so you know who's who, and then you'll be ready to dive right into spring. And it is such a fun season because we have our fairies returning, the garden is bustling, and it is a really, really sweet time. So if you're new, definitely take note of those few things. And if you're carrying on through the other seasons, I know everyone's going to be so excited for our spring stories to greet the fairies again, and we'll see a Rudabug perk up. I know our last story, halfway through, we saw Rudabug kind of struggling through those cold weeks of winter, but spring is Rudabug season. You see him everywhere because he is our garden gnome, so it is going to be a very, very exciting season. Lots more friends saying this is your first time. Hooray, I love it. Love the feedback that you're enjoying winter so far and the flexibility. So glad you are all here. Okay, I'm going to take a sip. Then we're going to do a kind of an intro about what I'm all going to talk about, and then we'll dive in, all right? Okay, so I'm going to start with kind of just going through spring as it is designed in the book. I'll take you through our timeline. I'll kind of give you a rough preview of kind of the themes of each week and the storylines of each week, and we'll prepare with some notes on how to prepare for some of your activities. But then we will dive into some deep dive, because spring presents its own challenges as a curriculum that is kind of a fixed weekly curriculum. But of course, the calendar moves. Now, in other seasons, our festival weeks tend to be pretty static. You know, in America, we always have a festival at the end of November. We always have winter holidays at the end of December. Everything kind of aligns, which makes those seasons very simple. But of course, in spring, we have Easter, which inspires a lot of our spring activities with Easter baskets and eggs. But Easter, that holiday moves so much. So because that moves so much, it will, if you want your activities to really align to that holiday, we're going to have to do a lot more shuffling than usual. So I will get into that into a little bit. But before I do want to just, especially for our new members, I want to kind of recap how we approach holidays and how you'll see them align week to week. I do see a few questions. Do I have any videos of the motion games and rhymes? I have some autumn samples in our replay library, but I have not had a chance to record video samples of the winter or spring rhymes. It is on my hopeful to-do list. Of course, if you have been following along, you know we have a lot going on all the time. We just finished our summer curriculum. We just finished a lot of big projects. I'm hoping we'll have time to come back and add more support through the other seasons. But right now, if you do go ahead and listen and watch those autumn samples, it'll give you a sense of what circle time will look like, about how I use those rhymes and how I weave it into circle time. So I would definitely still recommend watching those autumn samples, even though the spring samples aren't quite there yet. So I do apologize that I don't have videos of spring for you to watch, but I think the autumn samples will still give you a really good sense of what those motion rhymes even are and how that looks like in circle time. And then as you read your spring rhymes, you can kind of fill in the blanks yourself. All right, so do I still teach too? Yes, we have a lot going on. We still have kids here 3 days a week. My bigs are in first grade, and I have littles as well. So it is a lot of juggling around here. So now, holidays and festivals. If you're familiar, you know that our activities, we love to support major holidays through our activities, and our stories remain, we say, festival rich, but holiday neutral. So you get to come alongside and see what the gnomes and fairies are celebrating. They'll celebrate spring, they'll celebrate a new life in the garden and all of those great things, which poses a lot of great opportunity for activities. And those activities will support a lot of your major holidays, but we're going to leave the celebration and any faith-based pieces to you you in your own homes so you can kind of bridge that gap in a way that feels right to your family. Because of course for Easter, in my home, we are definitely celebrating the risen King Jesus, but I know for some of you, Easter is more of a time of new life and eggs and all of that thing. So you get to just choose what feels right for your family, and our activities will hopefully support the things you might want to do anyways. And then you have these lovely stories that can help explain some of the activities you might be doing, and you can adapt it as you need for whatever you believe and whatever you're celebrating. Now, within our rhythms, you'll notice that whenever we do have kind of a celebration week, we culminate our activities on the third day. So this is a 3-day rhythm. So we have day 1, day 2, day 3, and that third day of a celebration week is going to be when you're going to be celebrating. And often you'll see that day 3 is the activity is celebrate. Have your little celebration. So keep that in mind as we're opening our calendars and planners for when you want that celebration to be, because you'll want to align your day 3 to that day. Now, some of you like to just keep things a little more simple and honor the weeks and seasons just as they go, and it doesn't have to align on the specific day. But some of you really do like to make sure that you are celebrating that festival on the day and really making that special for your children. So keep that in mind however you like to plan. That day 3 for a festival week is going to be your celebration day. And any activities will kind of culminate on that day. So as we look ahead to any real planning with the days of the calendar and shuffling, keep that in mind that day 3 is always our celebration day. All right? Okay. Ooh, lots. Go, Lisa. Thank you. All right. I have a lot of questions that I'm going to pause and answer before we dive in. Hello from Australia, trying to plan autumn, but Easter is a juggle. Yes, I know. Bless you, all of you Southern Curriculum members who are already taking on the task of trying to align these weeks to the opposite seasons. That is a big task and something that we do hope to tackle. It is on my hopes and dreams list that we get a fully adapted Southern Hemisphere curriculum, but it is tricky with story and season and holiday to get all of those things to align. And I have another fun question that I am going to pause on and maybe touch on at the end because I do want to focus on spring. So lots of great questions, lots of great story depth questions and things that I'm going to get into in a little bit. All right, so are we ready to open up spring and get going? I think we will. All right, so spring is a lovely season. So I'm going to open up our spring timeline and I'm going to do a quick overview of the weeks and their themes and story plots as they are in order as you see them in our book. Now, quick reminder that this was released, we modeled this after where Easter was the year this was released back in 2024, all right? So that is gonna kind of pose our shuffling. But I'm gonna show you how it is as it is, and then I'll give you a few notes before we go ahead. So in March, we open up with Rainbow Week. And this is the return of the fairies. At the first rainbow of spring, the fairies return to dance and sing. So we get to greet the fairies. It is a lovely week. Now, the first 3 weeks of March, you will see a lot of nods to St. Patrick's Day. So a lot of St. Patrick's themed holidays. So that's kind of your bridge there for kind of your first holiday of March. So we'll see rainbows and clovers and potatoes, all of those things kind of help support some St. Patrick's Day festivities. So week 1, we have Rainbow Week, Return of the Fairies. Week 2 is Clover Week. So this is where you're going to get a lot of clovers, a little bit more heavy on the supporting St. Patrick's Day festivities. We have a really fun story of Rudabug, of course, our big burly green gnome, and he has a little fiasco with little Tourmaline, the pink pixie, turning his beard pink, and then all the fairies tried to fix it, and he gets a beard of all different colors. And what's fun about this is that we do get a brief picture of this green gnome with a bright orange beard, which is a little bit of a nod to the leprechaun. So very fun story. You actually also get a little bit of a color theory lesson there. So Clover Week is a lot of fun. Week 3, Potato Week. We have a lot of great potato planting, potato activities there. Of course, Rudabug loves potatoes, so a really great song there as well. Potato Week, again, we have a potato bread. Potatoes kind of goes with the Irish theme of some St. Patrick's Day festivities, of course, a little bit. And then we end March with the Spring Festival. This is meant to honor the spring equinox, and they all have a spring ball with the gnomes and fairies and friends to honor the coming of Lady Spring. So that is kind of your spring equinox celebration. And I know the equinoxes, kind of shift from being a little more in the 3rd week to the 4th week. So again, as we really dive into shuffling, you kind of decide where you want that week to be, if you want it to really align with the equinox or just be generally around the equinox. And Kelly's laughing at Rudabug's story. The colorful beard is a hilarious story. I cannot wait for you to hear it. So we end with the spring ball. April, again, this is our, this is where we're going to get the most shuffly, but as we have it written, we open up with Pottery Week. This is kind of an April showers story. It's raining. And then we have some broken dishes and a beautiful story of repair. And these are really thoughtful songs in this week, and it's a really, really beautiful. So we have rain and new dishes and repair and repairing things that were once broken. Beautiful, beautiful story there. Then we have Nesting Week. This begins kind of some Easter celebration things, okay? So we do have a pair. So Nesting Week and Egg Week are like this. And so if you do shuffle them, you will want to keep them together because we start a lot of our Easter activities with starting to grow Easter basket grass and starting to prepare things that will end up in our Easter basket. So Nesting Week, our story is the robin's nest. So we have expectant mothers coming to the garden, and we have a robin who is preparing to lay eggs. We have bunnies. We have new baby bunnies in the garden, and it is a really sweet week. And we have this song, Expectant Mothers, which is like a postpartum doula's dream. So it is really teaching children how to care for expectant mothers and new mothers. And it is a really, really, really sweet story. One of my faves. So Nesting Week, we kind of begin this theme of eggs, bunnies, new life, right? And then the following week is Egg Week. So this is where we'll culminate with a lot of those kind of Easter activities with egg dyeing, silk dyeing, and it all culminates in an Easter basket. And we have a fun story about baby bunnies hiding eggs, and then there's an egg hunt. So it definitely supports a lot of those Easter themed activities and culminates your projects with a filled Easter basket full of lots of fun spring activities. Then April concludes with Planting Day. In most planting zones, this is kind of after the last spring frost, so you should be good to start planting in your garden. You can plant the potatoes you started in Potato Week. And it's a sweet story about planting, all working together. Then May, we open up our first week with the Flower Festival. This supports May Day. So this is May 1st, of course, is May Day. We have a big May, the dancing around the maypole, the merry ring, as they call it, with flower crowns. So this is very much a May Day story. Then second week of May, we have Butter and Biscuits. We're churning butter, we're making biscuits, and it's a really just simple story of how to make things. It's one of those, it kind of reminds me almost like Little House, where you're just getting to see how things are made. Hamilton is learning how butter is made. Really, really sweet. Then our next week is Honey Week, where we get to meet another new friend. We meet Miss Eliza Hummingbird, who becomes a dear friend of Petty Pom's. Petty Pom is actually babysitting Tourmaline. They go into the beehive to get some honey, and then they meet Miss Eliza Hummingbird, and they become very, very good friends. So very exciting to meet her this week. And then we conclude with Bubble Week. The bubble party is our story, and it is a laundry day, and they are all washing their clothes in the pond, and there's bubbles and singing, and it is just a lovely, kind of fun but loose way to end your spring and really end your academic year, honestly, and end your season. And it is lovely, and you get to wash your aprons after all the fun you've had in your aprons for the season, and end with a bubble party. So it is so fun. I see someone saying we started last year at the end of spring. It's so fun to get to revisit this year. I really do believe that this curriculum gets more and more fun every year, because it is designed to kind of go back around a few years, because it's not just a preschool curriculum, not just a kindergarten curriculum, it is early childhood, and it is supposed to be repeated, and you get to see your children grow each year. So I do believe it gets more and more fun. So there we have our timeline. All right. Then I'm going to go into kind of reiterating which holidays kind of are supported, and then we have some practical planning tips to kind of prepare for some of the activities that we have, all right? And then after that, we will dive into kind of what to do with where Easter is and how to shuffle accordingly. All right, so as I mentioned, Clover week is kind of our St. Patrick's Day week, but we do have St. Patrick's Day kind of supported with Rainbow Week and Potato Week as well. But if you're wanting to really make St. Patrick's decorations, we have a clover garland, so that's kind of the more heavy on the St. Patrick's Day. Spring Festival, as I mentioned, is your spring equinox. Flower Festival is May Day. We also do have some, it's not listed here specifically, but we do have some Mother's Day opportunities in Butter Week. So keep that in mind as well for US friends who have Mother's Day in May, that Butter Week, you have a chance to kind of create a few little Mother's Day things. Some things to be aware of for just climate. We do have some planting things. So we have potatoes and we have planting, and things are starting to go in the ground, and we have some gardening and planting activities. So just be aware of your local climate. When's your last spring frost? When do you want to be planting things? And kind of work backwards as far as if you have your own garden, if you're going to be doing a windowsill garden, or what that looks like for your family where you live. Maybe you have a community garden, but just take into account some of these planting activities so you can plan accordingly for your climate and when you can plant things. And then we end with this Easter consideration. Nesting week and egg week, as I mentioned, are a pair. So wherever you shuffle these, and even good to know for our Southern Hemisphere friends, if you want to do those Easter activities and you're transplanting into autumn, these go together with the activities and with the story. So these, usually we keep our weeks fairly independent, but this is a 2-week kind of culmination event of kids making lots of things that culminate with a beautiful Easter basket, and the stories go a bit more together too. So keep those together as you shuffle them. And again, when we released this, Easter was like the third week of the year. All right, so we're going to now talk about some practical activity preparations, and then I'll go into supply considerations, and then we'll begin the shuffling conversation. All right. Okay, so planning your spring. We have a few activities that you actually can start preparing for now. All right. So Potato Week and Nesting Week, we have some things that if you want to start work on, you can start now. Here we are in February, right? So Potato Week, we have potting seeded potatoes, which means you're potting these little sprouted, I should have grabbed one from my pantry from potatoes I bought a few weeks ago. It basically, if you leave a potato out in a windowsill, it will start to sprout. And once you have those little sproutlings, those little eyes coming up, then that is a seed potato that you can then plant in the ground. Now, you have two options. If you don't want to or need to plan ahead, you can often go to a garden store and get seeded potatoes ready to plant. But if you want to just leave some potatoes out between now and then, there is time for you to make your own seed potatoes. So they do need a few weeks. So if you get to Potato Week and you haven't done anything, you'll probably need to just go grab some at a local garden store, planting store, things like that. But if you have time, like right now, I get to give you this nice preview. If you would like to prepare your own seeded potatoes, you can start thinking about that now. The other great thing to plan ahead is in Nesting Week, we have these great little knitted bunnies. I'll switch to a top down right here for you. These little knitted bunnies. Now, the children's part of this activity is more of a sewing piece. So you'll need, I'll kind of just flip ahead for you to see this. You'll need a finished square. Sorry, let me get to it. There. So you'll need a square of knitted or crocheted material, and they're going to be sewing this little bunny from a square. So the children aren't quite knitting. If you have older children who are knitting, this is a perfect activity to make something for their little siblings. But you or someone will need to make sure you have a little square, it can be about this big, would be good, of knit or crochet to be able to have ready for this sewing activity, all right? So you can phone a friend, you can learn to knit, you can learn to crochet. I'm more of a crocheter myself, so I tend to do a chain and then just single crochets back and forth about, you just need to be able to weave your little needle through those loops. Fabric doesn't work quite as well because we're using a blunt needle, and as I just said, you are kind of using that needle through the back loops of the knit or crochet. You might be able to make fabric work if you want to just use a real needle So you could give that a try. But this is your warning that you will need some sort of something to work with if you want to have your children sew up that little bunny, or if it feels like too much, you could skip it. But just letting you know that that is coming, and you can either learn or get a friend or something, or even, find a little knit piece if you want. But those are the two activities in spring that you'll see that kind of need a little more preparation than usual. There's yarn in the February boxes. I believe there's blue or yarn. And I believe there's yarn in the April box as well. All right. So now, speaking of kit boxes, I'm going to make a little note before we get to shuffling. All right. So before we begin the shuffling discussion, if you do end up shuffling your weeks, and if you want your your Easter activities to culminate before Easter, that does actually mean putting some April activities in March. Just think ahead a little harder about your supplies. So take a look at the weekly supply lists for March and April. And if you are a kit subscriber, we will be sending out the April kit early so that you will have those in time to potentially be using those at the end of March before Easter. So if you're a kit subscriber, we got you covered. Don't you worry. But if you're putting your supplies together yourself, just our monthly supply lists are for the month as it is, as you see it in the book. So if you shuffle anything, just look ahead to each weekly list to make sure you have what you need ahead of time. Now, I also will say for our kit subscribers, and if you're doing the kits, the in nesting week, you'll start an Easter basket grass, which is fun. And we have some lovely Easter basket. I should have grabbed one. I have a million of them. A lovely Easter baskets. Could you actually grab that basket for me? On the site, but they're a bit bulky and they're a bit spendier, so they won't be included in your April kit. So if you would like our baskets, they're full of fairies. If you'd like a basket that looks like this, we have these available on the site in 3 different sizes that you can choose from. This is the smallest one. But because there was size options and they couldn't quite fit in the box and they were kind of pricier, we didn't want to have to up your kit. So if you are getting an April kit, these won't be included, but they are available for you to purchase whichever size you'd like on your own. We also separately do have Easter basket growing kits that will include a basket, so up to you. But you can do that activity in any basket. It can be a very inexpensive basket from like the dollar store if you want. So, but if you want these lovely baskets, those will be kind of purchased separately. But they are lovely. They're my favorite Easter baskets. They hold up really well. So this is the small. It's full of fairies currently. But just a note as you're planning your supplies for spring, that April kit will be coming in time for your shuffling. And if you are shuffling, we got you covered. So now, if you're new and you're like, I got this curriculum because it was going to be nicely laid out, and now you're talking about shuffling everything around. If you are someone who celebrates more seasonally and doesn't need your Easter basket to be done before Easter, if you're fine dyeing eggs mid-April after that holiday, if you're fine celebrating things around this time, you do not have to shuffle at all. You can go from March week 1 all the way to May week 4, and it will be lovely. You'll get to celebrate the season. You'll get to do all of these fun things around the time that there's holidays happening. But if you're like, this feels like too much, I want simple, you can do it simple. Just know that because of the way the calendar lines up, things, might not happen right at that time, but you can also just say, I'm just going to go from front of the book to the back of the book and go as it comes. And that is also just fine. So you don't have to do all this big shuffling. I just want everyone to know what to expect so you're not surprised when things line up differently this year. All right. So if you're new, if you want to take it simple, you don't have to shuffle at all, and you will still have a lovely season. All of those things will still be very well celebrated in the stories, lots of fun activities. You'll love it. So you can definitely keep it as it is because the storylines line up beautifully. But if you want your holidays to really align with your activities, now I am going into my suggested shuffle. I want to make sure You'll probably get to this, but will the stories make sense if we shuffle around the weeks? The stories will still make sense. A lot of these stories are still kind of standalone. The two that you just need to keep together are nesting week and egg week. The rest are fine to kind of shuffle here or there. So we wanted to make sure that they are shuffleable. I will also say keep Rainbow Week as March week 1. You got to open up spring with the return of the fairies. But otherwise, you can shuffle as needed. Just keep those two kind of Eastery weeks together and it'll be lovely. So I'm going to take another sip. I'm going to open up questions and then I'm going to actually open up my planner. We're going to get down to the real dates of when holidays are this year. And I'm going to kind of guide you through how I'm shuffling so you can kind of hear my thought process of where things are going to align. And then you can use that information to either match my shuffle or to shuffle to your own liking. My hope here is to just really give you all the information you need so you're not surprised, so you can do what's best for you and your family and your children. All right, I'm gonna take a sip of water. So if there's any questions so far, now's your chance. Yes, are the rainbow wands restocking soon? If there's any spring supplies that are out of stock, yes, we will definitely be restocking those, and we'll be sure that those are, those come in the March kits as well. So those will, I'm sure they're already being restocked currently. So yes, don't worry, all of our spring supplies will be in stock very soon. All right, I am going to shuffle. Oh, thank you guys. Are the sprouted potatoes, I definitely didn't forget, on the top of my fridge. Yes, you can hang on to whatever potatoes, any leftover potatoes. They'll be fine for a few weeks. So as long as they have sprouts, they can be long sprouts. But yes, if you currently have sprouted potatoes, just hang on to them. And will there be an option to upgrade to second edition? So if you got first edition, you already have the second edition digital. So you get to see all this lovely information in the second edition digital copy, but it is a different book. So if you want a hard copy, that is a separate purchase. Woo! All right, yes, you can save your potatoes, Audrey. Now, time to open up our planner. Here we go, guys. This is gonna be our big task. All right, so spring. Is that high enough? Okay. All right. Okay. So holidays. We have our major holidays here. We have St. Patrick's Day, March 17th. We have our Easter holidays. Easter Sunday is April 5th. We don't really touch on Cinco de Mayo in our stories. We have Mother's Day that we have a little bit of a nod to in Butter Week. And then I'll also mention kind of May and what to do about Memorial Day and how we personally in our class, we like to end before Memorial Day. So part of this will also be, there's 4 weeks for each month as far as curriculum, but there's 13 weeks of spring. So you'll kind of also get to see where, if there's any off weeks you want to take off and just where you want things to align. All right. Okay. So ready? Okay. So March week 1 is a lovely alignment because March starts on a Sunday. This is a very obvious March week 1 here. And I'm going to be starting with Rainbow Week. And I suggest everyone starts with Rainbow Week. We'll greet the fairies. Okay. Then I'm going to go straight to March week 2 because Clover Week, again, is our St. Patrick's Day week. St. Patrick's Day is this following Tuesday, the 17th. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, if we're doing St. Patrick's Day stuff on the 17th, I want to make sure that all the decorations I have are already done. So I'm actually going to do that Clover Week the week ahead. So everything's already up. And then if we want to do any little festivities, we can do them that day. Now, instead of doing Clover Week on this week, I'm deciding to skip ahead to March week 4. So I'm skipping Potato Week. I'm going to save that for April. And I'm going to skip ahead to March week 4 to do my festival week so that it kind of culminates. We have our spring equinox here at the end of the week. So I get to kind of start here with some celebrations from Clover Week the week before. And then I'm going to do my festival week so it aligns with the end of the week and that festival day being really close to the spring equinox. All right, is that you kind of see my thought process here? So I'm going to push Clover Week the week ahead because we have a week with 2 holidays. We have St. Patrick's Day and the spring equinox in the same week. So I'm choosing to do Clover Week ahead of that holiday. So all of my, fun, I think I have, I'll show you here, We have clover garlands and all of these fun things can already be hung. And then we can have our little St. Patrick's Day celebration in there some way. And we tend to just celebrate those things on the weekends as a family. Then the next week, I'm going to go into Spring Festival Week. So again, all of my Spring Festival things are done to be able to celebrate on that Saturday, the 21st. So in my planning, we are doing March Week 1, Rainbow. Then we're heading to March Week 2, Clover. Then we're going to skip Potato Week, and I'll show you why, and we'll shuffle Potato Week a little bit later, and we're going to scooch up that Festival Week. So we have Festival Week happening March Week 4. Then we're going to hop over, we're going to skip over Pottery Week, and we're going to go right to April Week 2, Nesting Week. And this aligns really nicely to be able to do Nesting Week this week of March, and then we can do Egg Week the first week of April, so that Egg Week is complete and you have Easter baskets ready for Easter on the 5th. All right, so we're taking the last week of March and the first week of April to do Egg Week, or Nesting Week and Egg Week, so that everything aligns before Easter on April 5th. All right? No. A little question, are the stories shuffling per your suggestions, or are they staying in the same order for the original curriculum? Good question. So the audiobook stories will be releasing in the same order, but because we already released those a week ahead, all we're going to do is we're going to sneak one story in kind of on a Monday, Thursday release, and we will actually release a release schedule for you guys. So we're just going to sneak one extra story in. They'll still be in the same order as the curriculum, but we'll make sure that you guys have Nesting Week and Egg Week stories done and out to listen to before Easter. So we actually don't have to shuffle the audiobook release. We're just scooching, because it's already, we released it a week before, we're just scooching one extra story in for you there. So audiobook stories are staying in the same order, but because they come a little early, we'll just sneak one in and you'll have everything you need before this. Does that make sense? Good. All right. So there we go. That is my shuffle. And again, I'm talking you through this so you can really hear what's going on in my head. So you can say, oh, okay, good thought. I'm going to shuffle this, all of this. Yay, thank you guys. There's a lot to do for spring. I'm thankful for the appreciation. All right, so I'm going to recap March and the beginning of April. My suggested shuffle, start with Rainbow Week, do March Week 2, Clover Week, so you have all your St. Patrick's Day stuff up, celebrate St. Patrick's Day, head into Festival Week, so you do all your Spring Festival stuff to honor the equinox, then jump ahead to your Easter weeks. So you have 2 weeks of Easter stuff, April Week 2, April Week 3, Nesting Week, and Egg Week, so all of your Easter activities are done before Easter on the 5th. All right, then now we kind of go back and start replugging some of the weeks we skipped. So then April Week 2, after Easter, we're going to go head on with Potato Week. And it's a fun, sweet story of potatoes. So you can enjoy potatoes any time of year. And I think that's fine to happen, not necessarily super close to St. Patrick's Day. Because the Clover Week, we actually have Irish soda bread as the as the baking day recipe. So that is more like really kind of Irish, St. Patrick's Day. So Clover Week has the Irish soda bread. Potato Week, we do have potato bread, but that one I feel a little better pulling further away from St. Patrick's Day. So after Egg Week, we're going to go into Potato Week. And then we will come back to April Week 1, Pottery Week. Here in Washington, April showers are a very real thing, so I'm sure it'll still be wet mid-April as well. Then we're going to and now April has 5 weeks, so we have a few other options here. So for me, I'm going to do my April Week 4 the week of the 20th, and that's planting week. And that for here, my zone, that is around our last spring frost. So that is around the time that we typically begin planting. And another note about why I'm doing these things the way I'm doing. Potato Week, we start a potato sprouting basket, right? Your potatoes start growing. In Planting Week, you get to plant those potatoes. So I want to give those potatoes a week or two to grow before. So that's why I did potato, pottery, then planting, so that they can be growing all through Pottery Week, because if I did potato, then planting, they might not be ready to go in the ground. All right, so I want to give my potatoes a little time to grow. So we're going to do Potato Week. Then we'll go to pottery week, and it's a nice kind of calm week of clay and rain and sweet stories, kind of a nice little out breath. And then those potatoes will be ready by the time we do planting week, kind of that 4th week of April around the 20th. All right? Whoo! Then we get to our May stories. Now you have an optione here. Festival week, so our May festival, our flower festival, really honors May Day. So May Day is Friday, it's on a Friday. So if I'm thinking, okay, if I want my festival to lead up to that, I actually am gonna prefer that my May week 1 shifts to April week 5, really, so that we're having that celebration. Flower crowns are done, everything's ready, that we can celebrate at the end of that week. All right. So you can also push May Day, the flower festival, later into May if you would like, but it'll be more after May Day. So I'm pushing that week up at the end of April. So that 27th week of April, I'm going to be doing May week 1, flower festival week, so that we can culminate and celebrate on May 1st, May Day. All right. Then we're going to get into May, and I will kind of let you know kind of how things shuffle. And yes, May Day is the star turning as well. So that's when you turn the star. It's a big festival, and you would turn the star on May 1st. So that kind of aligns nicely there. So then May, I'm going to do my May week 1, kind of that last week of April, and head right on to Butter Week, which also aligns a little better because Mother's Day is on the 10th. Right? So Butter Week, I have little Mother's Day butter boxes. They're really sweet. So those will be all complete before our US Mother's Day on the 10th. So I'm going to do festival, then I'm going to do butter, and then we'll move on to honey. And then in our little school here, in our class here, we always have our last day of school right before Memorial Day, which is the 25th. So I like to end May a week early, right? So for me, this works perfectly because Bubble Week will conclude the week of the 18th, and then I have a nice week off to end the school year, and then also a nice week off to give you a little breather if you are going to be starting with our June curriculum, which would be right about here. All right. Now, if you want your May to really fill up May, you could also choose to take a week off at the end of April and do May week 1, 2, 3, 4 to really fill these. You know, you have 4 full weeks of May here. So if you'd rather do 1, 2, 3, 4, you can. But right now this year, I think I'm going to push May week 1 up. So we culminate on May Day, 2, 3, 4, and then we have a nice week off at the end for Memorial Day. All right. So a few things out of order. We have March week 1, March week 2, March week 4, April week 2, April week 3, March week 3, April week 1, April week 4, May week 1. So it seems all over the place, but I think this is a really great way to get things to align as best you can this year. And I actually think with a few shuffle, things align pretty well. So of course, you do not have to do Miss Lisa's seasonal shuffle, but I hope this kind of just helps you hear why, you know, kind of how I'm thinking about things and the little nuances that you'll find within the curriculum, so that, again, I want you to make sure that your curriculum is aligning the way you want, so you're not surprised when something lines up, all right? So that's my suggestion. That's what I'll be doing. You can do whatever you'd like. And again, if you want to keep it simple, you don't have to shuffle at all, and you'll still have a lovely season. But if you want festivals to really align, this year, that is my suggestion. And I do think with just shuffling things around, it does work pretty well. So, okay, I'm going to take a sip of water, and I'm going to let you guys ask any questions on all of that. And then we might be done here. All right, let's see. I see some typing. All right. Okay, typing went away. Oh. Okay, sorry, I need to scroll down my chat. Okay, so helpful, yay. All right, quick summary of the week by name. Yes, I'll do a quick review. Okay, so quick review in Miss Lisa's Spring Shuffle. March week 1, we're gonna start with Rainbow Week. Then we're gonna go to Clover Week. Then we're gonna skip ahead to Spring Festival so that we align that with the Spring Equinox. Then we're gonna skip ahead to our Easter activities. We're going to do Nesting Week and then Egg Week. After Egg Week, which aligns with Easter, then we'll head back to Potato Week and then Pottery Week. Then we'll go ahead to Planting Week and the third week of April. Then we'll go our May Day festival week, the last week of April, so that we can celebrate that May Day actually on May 1st. Then we'll go on to Butter Week, Honey Week, Bubble Week, and take the last week of May off. And thank you, Michaela, for giving a little recap there as well. And I'll probably also make a post of this as well for you, so we can have it for easy reference, because this is going to be good to review. So I'll be sure to make a post for all of you and maybe pin that to the additional resources so it's easy to find. All right. I do see someone asking, how do we access the digital copy that's included in the hard copy purchases? Yes, if you got a real book, you have a digital. So if you're having trouble finding that, you can reach out to Wondergarten team here in the app, or just email info@wondergarten.net. We'll make sure you get your digital copy. All right, thank you. Okay, now I have some summer questions coming up. Yes, summer, we finished summer. I should have brought our little test print here, but yes, summer is done and off to press. This was a huge amount of work that we got done, and we are so excited. So we are anticipating summer will be releasing this spring. Right now we're looking around May Day will be kind of our summer launch, but we do want to make sure we have all of our ducks in a row before that. So we'll definitely be releasing this spring for sure. Summer is a lovely, lovely, lovely season, and it concludes our stories. So our stories start off with autumn when Hamilton discovers Wondergarten, and then we'll conclude in August, and we have some really beautiful storylines. It truly is, when it comes to art and music and story, it is Nathaniel's best work. So if you love any of this at all, you will absolutely love summer. There's some really fun songs, fun stories, some emotional ones as well, per usual, and really fun. The rhythms are similar but looser. So you'll see less seated time around the table. You'll see bubbles and sidewalk chalk and fun, loose things. A lot of prompts to go out and enjoy the season. So it's a really, really great season. I think you will love it. And if you were here for the summer test group, I can't wait for you to see just how far it's come in such a short amount of time. So summer kicks off with June. So you'll have June, July, August, 4 weeks of each. A lot of really great activities. I think you'll love it. All right, let me catch up on all this chat. All right, I have some gardening tips for New Mexico. I'm hoping some members can maybe support you there. I'm only familiar with Washington weather. And moving Pottery Week, you can definitely move Pottery Week wherever you want. That story is very self-contained about its, April showers and making new dishes, so that can go anywhere you would like. Thank you. Someone just shared a last frost calendar. Lovely. Can't wait for you to feel this. Someone's wanting to know what people were guessing in the February chat. I'm going to take a sip of this, and it was something regarding fairies and drinkware. That's all I'm going to say. All right. Okay. So fun. The star turning days for spring are our spring festival, the spring equinox, and May Day, the flower festival. So those are where you turn your star to green and then light green. I'll cover that in more depth in our monthly overview. So our March overview is already next week. So I always do a little demonstration of my star turning song and kind of that weaves in there. So, but if you do want to make a note, star turning days for spring are spring equinox and May Day. So spring festival week and flower festival week is where you'll see those star turnings. And by conclude, do you mean the stories for early childhood education, or will there be more stories? Okay, so yes, by conclude, I mean this storyline of early childhood stories will conclude in summer, but Nathaniel is not done writing. So I can't say too much, but these early childhood stories end in a really beautiful way to just kind of honor where the child may be in their journey of either going off or coming back to early childhood, right? There will be more stories that you'll hear in first grade. So in our developing grades curriculum, you'll get to actually learn along with Hamilton to hear how the fairies and gnomes taught Hamilton to read and write and do math. So Rachel has already been drafting this in our first grade test group, but now that summer's done, Nathaniel's going to be really going back and writing new kind of supplementary teaching stories for the grades curriculum so you can kind of stay in Wondergarten and learn alongside Hamilton. And then there will be more stories to be written for the middle child and late childhood as well. I'm not going to say too much about that yet, but there will be more to the story. So in a way, they'll conclude, but in another way, it's only just begun, right? So, so stay tuned. If you love any of this, just you wait. It will only get better and better and better. Yeah, so very, very fun stuff. I cannot wait for you guys to see. Summer stories are just really phenomenal. And then everything beyond that is going to be amazing as well. All right. Oh, okay. Okay, I shouldn't say more, but be sure to join me for our summer overviews. Of course, in our summer overviews, I'll have to reveal some spoilers. And it'll be up to you if you want to read ahead or wait for the audiobook releases for those stories. Summer supply kits, yes. We'll be launching our own summer supply kit subscription as well, and we'll have summer supply kits as well. And even with our summer launch, we hope to do kind of big summer deluxe boxes with everything and all of the fun things with CDs and songbooks and everything. So lots of fun summer stuff coming, summer supplies, of course, all of the above. And yes, yay. Okay. Lots of fun excitement, which I love. There are so many things coming. And again, if you're just starting or if you've been with us for years or if you started in autumn, there is still so much lovely things coming. I can't wait for you to continue to hear the audiobook stories. Come March week 1, you might also hear another familiar voice for the fairies. So lots of fun stuff coming. And the summer stories, again, are just phenomenal. I can't wait to share more details about summer launch with you when we get to it. So stay tuned. As always, I will be back already next week. We have some travel coming up at the end of February. So we've kind of shuffled our March planning sessions a little early. So we will already be back next week diving into our March overview, which will be great. I'll get to kind of cover deep dive of how to prepare, what to expect, all of those things. Thank you all for being here. I love a good active chat for lives. This makes it just so much fun for me to be able to be here and interact with you guys and support you guys because I really do love it. And I want to make sure that you guys have a wonderful experience with your children. So thank you. March silks are still TBD for release, so just keep an eye out. But otherwise, thank you all, and we'll see you here next week for March planning. Thank you all for being here. This was a lot of fun, and I hope you all have a lovely spring and happy Candlemas, right? We're halfway through. All right, bye, friends.